All right. We're back at it again. It is the daily close, and we are here with your weekly technical analysis. We're going to cover some key assets here in the crypto space, talking about Bitcoin, Ethereum, and we're also going to cover some additional projects for Luna and Matic as well. So we hope that we can give you a good picture of what's happening in the market so you know how to kind of tread the space. But just remember that we're not financial advisors, so make sure you do your own research. And then, as always, please like, subscribe, comment below so we can come right back to you. Hit that bell notification so you'll be one of the first to know when we get our videos up. We're on a good roll now. We're going to keep these videos coming out, so stay tuned. But without further ado, let's jump into BTC. And what do we have here? So now looking at the weekly chart for BTC, I'm just going to spread it out so we can see it a bit more clearly. But I mean, overall, we are still, most technically in a uptrend. I mean, we are making a higher high. These are lower lows. We did have a bit of a wick down here, but we did close higher up here around what that space we're at right now, about 49,000. So I mean, overall, it's not bad. In terms of the overall market structure. Looking at the Stokes as well, we are pointing down perhaps here on the weekly, depending on how our line here starts to curve back up again. Perhaps we might see a bit more action going up to the upper side, but we are technically in a bit of a bearish control zone here. So that's reflected in the current price action. Looking a little bit south, we're seeing a little bit more sell pressure coming up. However, we are under the moving average, so that is slowly coming down. And we also see by the BBWP as well that we're starting to consolidate a bit more. So less action in the space presented by the volume as well. It was after huge sell pressure that we had a few days ago. It's just reflected in the current price action. Looking at the CT MAC as well, we are trading some fell below a few major moving averages, but we are above the higher 55.89, and of course my 200 simple and exponential moving averages. So that's still a good sign. We'd like to see it cross back up above the 55 again, 55,000 to get back into that action. Let me see. Whoa, that's not all to go. You go to some fibs. It's massive. So we can talk about here in terms of price levels on the weekly. It looks like we're just about bouncing off that 48,600, just above it, actually, just about 49. So we're about to bounce off that is what the chart is looking like. It's going to make a move to do. We do have a possibility of going to a little bit more downside if this level doesn't hold, possibly a bounce off of the 44,000, 43,000. That if it does not hold here, that might be an opportunity to get in a buy. Because I'm assuming that based off the VPVR, this is, I'm just zoom in a bit here. Okay, make put a controls a little bit further down. That's usually a sign of an area of key resistance and support. But I mean, even up here, there is some interest around this current level here. So this may hold. The bulls might push this price back up if it starts going too far down. Obviously, we see here by the wick up. So I'm thinking that it might, at least on the weekly, still very bullish, might hold in this area. If we bounce down, I think it'll just be a quick wick down. If we move down to the short time frames, talk about the daily here. I gotta get off my clean slate there. So on the daily here, we're looking at a little bit more of a short-term bearish structure going down here, because obviously we are, we had a higher high here at least, but now we have started to move down and we're bouncing off this previous level here. Actually, I drew right around the still 49. So we are in the short term, at least recent couple of days, it is a bit more bearish. Let me just take this off. Here we are in the bearish control zone of both the RSI and the Stoke. And we are, there is quite a bit of action that was resulting in the last couple of days, especially on the 4th, we had a big drop. So, I mean, same here, if we should keep our fibs going here. I don't know if I want to go, maybe if I were to go back here to the highest high. Yeah, I mean, perhaps we could, same as before, fall back a little bit back down again. Just want to see a bit more bullish buying power coming in here to help push us back above and close above these previous levels here, but this might actually act as a at least a daily resistance. So that is something to contend with, particularly because this Stoke is pointing down. So maybe on the daily, we might see a little slight downside. Now, if we move over to the 1 hour chart here, we have, actually on the let me just clean this up a bit. So here on the 1 hour chart, we are, and actually this might present itself as potentially an opportunity, but we are now, bouncing off the lower levels here. Expecting there to be a little slight downside here, but I mean, where we are placed on the Stoke, if we start having things pointing upward, that's going to be a good sign for us. Here, not sure if I'm seeing a divergence forming potentially on the Stoke. But right here we have a higher low here, a higher low. This might be forming another higher low up here. So I'd probably say this is much lower low here. And we're actually getting higher. So I think this might be a divergence forming here, at least on the hourly. Might be something to pay attention to. Definitely want to see a bit more action coming in. But we see what looks to be a bit of a consolidation going on here as well. At least in, might be able to see a channel forming a little bit of indecision, but at least we see the BBWP is saying it's opening up on the price. So hopefully, I mean, looking at this, actually, this still other line still holds true. If it bounces off this level, that would be a good sign, and maybe Stoke might be alluding to the possibility of that fact. Let me come up here as well. Same with our favorite fibs. 1 second. Let's toss that on there. And yep, same levels here. Still bouncing off the same area. So this is kind of key. See how that's going to play out. There's a big area of interest, and the point of control is exactly on that point here too. This usually acts as a very strong point of support. Based on how things look, there is at least a relatively good chance, that this might go to the upside and start testing some of these upper parts of the fibs at 49 and at the 50 in the next number of hours. At least here on the CT MAC, we are trading below all the moving averages. That does give some cause for concern. So we probably want to also at least see a few confirmations, maybe some large candles, or developing large candles on the upside, and that would be a bullish sign. So I mean, overall with Bitcoin, I mean, in the short term, we're probably going to see possibly a slight downside, but we're hoping that these supports are going to hold and push us back up, at least on the 1 hour. The daily might be a bit slightly dubious, but at least the entire weekly market structure is bullish. So still a good asset to be in. That's BTC, but I'd also like to run over to Luna as well, because yesterday, if some of you were in the charts, you probably saw some good price action that occurred. I think actually, yeah, yesterday on the 7th, we had actually a bit of a gain. Yeah, from the beginning of the 7th to almost the top of the 7th, 13% up. So whoever caught that probably had a good day, but that's on the 1 hour looking at. So we're just gonna pull this back up to the weekly. And all right, so I mean overall it's clearly a bullish structure for Luna. We are at the top of the RSI for deep activity. We were most recently on last week trading over the moving average, which is below it now. However, we are in the slightly getting close to the overbought area, but we're not past it yet. So we still have some room to grow, and we're at least over the 12 moving average I have here as well. So that's usually a sign that's going to keep that direction for now, at least. Do see some consolidation coming up, but we did have a cross here. Preferably, we can have this. Hopefully, it does not go to the downside as we want to avoid. And this doji candle here just shows that level of, like I said, the consolidation or indecision, at least on the weekly time frame. As well as CTMAC, we're above all the moving averages. That's definitely a good bullish sign. That's a good trend. VPVR. And when you look at this much data, obviously all the point of controls gave you the lowest part. So it's hard to really use that here because it's just not a whole lot of data about our current price point. Overall, I'd say the market structure is bullish. Moving down to daily. I mean, here on the daily, we are quite well opened up on the BBWP. There's quite a lot of interest that pushes up to this price. Perhaps this is starting to form direction of going down on BBWP. We did have a lot of action here over the moving average. It's kind of topping off, slowing down here. So if this moves down, so it's moving down, it's a bit of consolidation. As a fact, by less action or less volume that's coming up, so we might see a little bit of sideways action. Here on the Stoke, we were in the overbought, or we were above R80. We're coming back down as well, so perhaps this might be a slight indication, as well as the RSI here, that it might be going down. I think, yeah, I mean, no real massive divergence there, at least from the RSI. And then there might be a slight divergence on the Stoke that's forming here too. So that might be a slight cause for concern on the daily, at least. I do want to see, I mean, this is the trend though. It's actually, if you're longing this, the trend is your friend right now. So don't get too panicky, but we might see a little bit of movement in this area. Let's see if I just want to zoom this out. So see the VPVR, you can just look at this price zone. Yeah, so not a whole lot of data up in this area. So that's probably why there's not a lot of belief in one direction or the other at this point. I mean, if it falters here, and let's just draw this fib. I guess we can call this, actually, this probably might as well put it out here. The daily. Yeah, I mean, there's not a whole lot of data up in here. We're still at quite a higher level of success, at least in this area. Let me just fix that fib actually. There we go. Okay. Yeah, I mean, yeah, we did have a little bit of a bounce here. Support and resistance acting on this line, so this 66.49, 66.49. Look like it's holding fairly well, at least here on the daily. That's a good sign. It's still a bullish structure. We are a bit of overbought. We're still sorry, we're just like, yeah, barely below the overbought, and we are well below on the RSI as well too. So for all intents and purposes, for the indecision that we saw in the higher time frame, if anything, we might just see a little bit of action for the next maybe another day or two, probably in this zone between the 66 and 75 is what I would put my number on. For the 1 hour, let me just clean this up so we get a fresh chart. Typically, being able to see the price and not having like indicators on is a good way to trade, so you actually know what's happening. But yeah, here as well. So let's take a look at the Stoke. Stoke, you know, we did have an entry opportunity probably. Actually, yeah, it's a bit of a. So yes, I mean, if we're talking about today on the 8th, yeah, we might have had a bit of a little bit of a slight downward movement because we do have a lower high, but we do have a higher low forming here. I think that possibly we might be. Just want to see actually if there's any kind of. I mean, perhaps if anything, it could bounce off the 70 and then trade in this area if we don't have a significant amount of volume that moves up in one direction. And BWP is showing that level of consolidation or constricting down in this area that it might form. So this might be a good opportunity to make some little scalping trades here as well. I mean, this if it starts to point up again, that might be an indication that you can get in quickly. But I think there's going to be some resistance levels that we might be able to dictate through the VPVR. Yeah, so look at that. So I mean, we just barely got close to this point of control here that act as a support. And right now, next level might be about 68. Not as much interest up here to get to 69. And that kind of dies as we get to at least mid of the 70.39 here as well. So this area might be contentious. And just for the lower, last down, swing high, swing low, swing low, swing high. And we just see it right there. That's kind of playing off, almost exactly off that FIP as well. So we want to, if I was going to make a trade on this, we probably want to see if this would close above and want to see more volume and our Stokes pointing up. And then if the BWP can support that with, with the next number of points of action, showing that, BB bulge band opening up, that interest, making that into more of a trend, that'd be great. It'd be even more of a confirmation if within the next few days, if we can get back up above our 76.64 and close, then we could be back in a bullish trend on the longer time frames down to the lower time frames, and that would be a good trade. But yeah, something 2 points to watch out for Luna and for BTC. I think I went at length on that one here too. So I'm going to pass it over to my guy here, knxqtr. He's going to take us through ETH and more.
Thank you, Crypto-pleb. Thank you. Very informative. It's good to see what's happening in the market. And I think Luna is one of the stronger performers right now. So it's one to definitely keep an eye out for. Let's go into ETH first. Okay. That should be the right screen here. Okay. So let's look at the ETH on the different timeframes as usual. And I'm going to point out the 3 different things that I look out for when I'm looking for a trending move. So first things first is the market structure. We're on the weekly timeframes here. We are in a bullish uptrend right now. We have the higher lows and the higher lows. We can draw sort of like a nice horizontal support there as well. If I turn off my EMAs, you can see that we're holding that quite well. Please bear in mind that this is the weekly, so it is a longer term timeframes and things do take time to play out. So if you are trading the weekly, you just have to show patience and know where your invalidation points are. Speaking of invalidation points, I still look at this as good in terms of market trend and market structure, as long as we are trading above 3930, a break below 3930, and I would look for moves back down to around about Well, you'd probably get a bounce at your weekly 21, which is around 3,700, but I don't think things would stop there. I think you'd get a short-term bounce, and then things very likely come back down to around $3,000, just over $3,000. But I don't think that's what's going to happen. I do think we are going to remain in this uptrend. On the weekly, we have played out, if we look at the divergences, these red lines signify bearish divergence, which means that as the RSI, as price action is making higher highs, the RSI is making lower highs. And that signifies and tells us that there is loss of momentum in the market and loss of interest in buying as the price moves up, which is typically not a good sign. So you can see that we've played out 1, 2, 3, a few drives of bearish divergence on the weekly. If we just enlarge in this a little bit, we are still in the bullish control zone, which is good. We have played out a little bit of bullish divergence in the past weeks, but the most recent one is that big drive of weekly regular bearish divergence on the 8th of November, which we did play out, and this was a down to the wick. It was about 27% move. Now these aren't, it's not too uncommon. Again, back in August, we had a 32% move. And then back in May, the big dump in May was 52. So you can see that these are sort of regular occurrences now. It's not sort of like parabolic growth up and then a massive 80-90% dump down. It is a sign of a maturing market where you do have, regular corrections of around 20 to 30% on average. And I think that, the weekly trend, I give most weight to the market trend, and the market trend is bullish. So unless this is invalidated, I expect us to carry on trending and make new all-time highs, possibly in this month, possibly next month, but I think relatively soon. One thing to keep an eye out for, though, is volatility coming down as we were making price higher. When we were going up in price, volatility was coming down on the BBWP. As you can see, it's generally in a downtrend. And this was also, confirmed with the bearish divergences too. What is Stokes saying? Stokes are angled to the downside right now, but will be crossing up if we get any closure on the weekly candles above 4,321. We're currently about $25 below that now, but we still have 4 days and 11 hours left. So there is a long time to go. So just keep an eye out for that if you are looking at the weekly. On the daily, again, it's sort of maintains its bullish trend. No sort of divergences to be had at the moment. We did most recently play out this small regular bullish divergence, but we are in the middle, in the neutral zone right now. So I expect some consolidation. I expect if we do see a move in any direction to be relatively big. If we put in our BBWPs, if we do consolidate in this area, they will start to contract, and volatility, as shown in the BBWP, is almost on the floor right now. What sort of read do we have here? It's about 16.8%. So could come down a little bit lower, could consolidate for a little bit longer before making a move either to the upside or the downside. Now you can see on this big wick, we did hold the 200 exponential moving average, bounced perfectly off there. I do look at closures though of candles as I do give more weight to that as opposed to wicks, because we can all have all sorts of different sort of volatility in the market. If I draw a line here, you can see that this is a very good example of a support resistance flip, where we had previous resistance. We're now using it as support. We've had many tests on this support, and generally speaking, the more tests we have on a support or resistance line, the weaker it becomes. So the more times we test this, the more likely it is to break down. Again, I don't think that's what's going to happen, but time will tell. So for the Stokes as well, Stokes are pointing up as long as we're above 4,243. We are currently above that right now. Still 10 hours to go on the daily closure. but I just expect it to range a little bit more, maybe come down and test this support again, which is about $4,000 flat. And yeah, I would say invalidation of this is, you know, a closure below $4,000 for, and if we do close below that, we'll probably make our way. If I put on the VPVR, you know, a small bounces at 3,800, and then ultimately down to about 3,600 on the daily time frame. Okay, and on the 4 hour, let's see what's happening on the shorter term timeframes. Short term timeframes is forming a little bit of a range now. We've been falling in and out of it. So we have deviated a little bit above here, deviated a little bit below, but generally speaking, we have been trading within this range. We tried to break out here on the 4 hour, came back down with a massive dump on high volatility, and now we're trading back at the highs of this range. So, you know, we could come back down to 3,980, $4,000-ish level, and that would still be fine. A breakout of this range would give us a technical target of around about 4,860, which is right in line with our all-time highs. So do watch out for that. Again, as I mentioned, I'm interested to see if this lines up with any of the, and a measured move, if we do break this range, would be about 3,550, which was in line with where we have some big volume coming in around there. So I do expect technical targets to be met if we break this range. That's it for ETH. Let me go over Matic really quick, because this is actually one of the strongest performers in the market right now. We have a big narrative with Matic with the ZK rollups, and we also have the technicals on its side. So I do expect this to make new all-time highs, very possibly this month. Actually, I would say, you know, this month is very, very likely, and definitely into next month as well. What are we seeing on the weekly time frame? Well, weekly time frame again, we have broken out of this macro sort of like accumulation pattern here, and it's looking very, very bullish. We did accumulate for a long time. There's about 189 days, about 180 days we consolidated for under the all-time highs, and now that we've broken that, we're getting a big move up to the targets. And targets for this, I mean, this is just one big ascending triangle. Targets to this would, for this on the weekly, remember this is the long-term time frames, we have pretty much met that technical target. Now the question is, do we break through this, or do we play a little bit of a pullback and consolidation first before moving up? And I would say that, you know, if we draw a fib, I'm going to move on to the daily now. Let me just clean this up a little bit. If we draw our fib on the daily from this previous consolidation here, you can see that we have almost perfectly hit the 1.618. So the question is, do we break this area? Do we go back and retest and break this 1.618 level with volume? The technicals would suggest that we could possibly do. We have volatility expansion on the daily, coming up to you know, the 90th percentile almost. Stokes crossing up into the critical zone almost. We have RSI into the bullish control zone, and still room to go. So I would say that, you know, very possibly in the next couple of days we could retest this 1.618 level and even break out. And if we do break out, the technical targets for that would be firstly around $3, just under $3, and then $3.25. You know, $3.16. That's pretty bullish. I have been trading this this coin, Matic, recently, and this is not financial advice, but you know, do your own research. I like to play into strength. So looking very, very good on Matic. And you have this nice increase in volume profile, which you like to see on a move up as well. And then the 4 hour, we are showing signs of a local top here. We've reached extremes on volatility on our BBWP. We are playing out some drivers of bearish divergence, but the latest one here, we have had a drive of bearish divergence, which we've seen on that move up from around 223, and then up to about 247 on a wick basis, 249 on a wick basis actually. And Stokes are pointing down. We'll be crossing down if we get any closure below 231. We are above that currently, so maybe one more try to the upside before coming back down. But I would say on a shorter term time frame, on the 4 hour, we do consolidate and pull back a little bit before again trying for the for new all-time highs. So that's it for Matic. I definitely think Matic is a strong performer out there along with Luna. ETH and BTC is something to watch out for as always, because all altcoins basically follow ETH and BTC. I shouldn't say all, I should say the majority of them do. So whichever direction BTC and ETH move, the majority of altcoins will likely move in that direction in multiples. So if BTC moves like 5%, altcoins are probably going to move like 10, 15%. So be careful when you're trading out there. It's a choppy market right now, but there is money to be made.
I say better myself. That's actually a good wrap up for everything on the 4 assets we just talked about there. And as always, here at the daily closing, we're always going to do technical analysis every week to give you a picture of what the market looks like. So stay tuned for our next video. We're going to have coming up this weekend on Sunday, where we'll talk about the market again, see how our predictions, how they played out, and you can watch our videos to see if that can be a good basis for sort of your own research when you look into these coins, see which coins you think you can make some money on in the short term or long term, because there's some great projects out there that we look forward to telling you about. Next TA video and the next project video coming up. But until then, as always, please continue to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification so you'll be the first to see when our next video comes up. Comments, please keep them coming. We try to get back to all of them, especially the ones that are not from bots or selling things, which is all too common on YouTube. But if you come at us with a comment or ask us to cover a particular coin, we will accommodate and we will try our best to do so too. So without further ado, thank you again, as always, for watching, and see you in the next video, the Daily Close. And may the pump forever be with you.
May the bump be with you.
In perpetuity.